The champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers, shattering against the marble floor of the charity gala as she watched her husband's hand rest intimately on another woman's lower back. But it wasn't the betrayal that made her blood run cold. It was recognizing exactly who the woman was. Her own sister. What would you do if you discovered your husband was cheating with the last person you'd ever suspect? Stay tuned to find out how one woman's world crumbled and how she rebuilt it into something stronger than ever before. Elena Martinez had always believed in fairy tales, perhaps because her own life had resembled one for so long. At 34, she possessed the kind of understated elegance that turned heads without trying, dark hair that caught light like silk, intelligent brown eyes that missed nothing, and a smile that had once made her husband David fall to his knees with a marriage proposal in Central Park. She'd built her life like a carefully curated museum exhibit. The penthouse apartment overlooking the city, the successful interior design firm she'd grown from nothing, and a marriage that had been the envy of their social circle for 8 years. Elena was the woman other women wanted to be, successful, beautiful, seemingly blessed with everything that mattered. But museums, Elena was about to learn, were places where beautiful things went to die behind glass walls. Elena's fingers traced the rim of her morning coffee cup as she watched David button his shirt through their bedroom's floor-to-ceiling windows. The autumn light caught the silver threads that had begun appearing in his dark hair, distinguished, she'd always thought, like everything else about her husband. At 37, David Martinez commanded boardrooms with the same effortless charm that had won her heart nearly a decade ago. "The Henderson Project presentation is today," she said, scrolling through her phone. Mrs. Henderson specifically requested those Italian marble samples we discussed. David's reflection paused in the mirror as he adjusted his tie. Oh, right. You'll handle it perfectly, as always." His tone carried that distracted quality she'd noticed creeping in over the past few months, present but not really there, like he was conserving his attention for something more important. Elena looked up from her phone, studying her husband's profile. When had the easy intimacy between them become so transactional? "David, is everything all right? You seem just tired, amor." The Spanish endearment rolled off his tongue automatically, but it lacked the warmth that used to make her heart flutter. "The merger has everyone on edge. Rodriguez is breathing down my neck about quarterly projections." She nodded, accepting the explanation because it was easier than examining the alternative. David's architectural firm was indeed in the middle of a major merger, and she'd watched him weather professional storms before. But this felt different. The late nights had multiplied, the weekend calls had become more frequent, and their conversations had gradually shifted from sharing dreams to coordinating schedules. "Maybe we should plan a weekend away," Elena suggested, rising from the breakfast bar. "Remember that little inn in Vermont we loved? We could." "Can't. Too much work." David grabbed his briefcase and keys in one fluid motion. "I'll probably be late tonight. Don't wait up." The kiss he pressed to her forehead was perfunctory, lasting exactly long enough to avoid seeming cold, but not long enough to suggest genuine affection. Elena watched him leave, that familiar knot of unease tightening in her stomach. She shook her head, pushing down the feeling. Every marriage had seasons, periods where work took precedence over romance. This was just one of those times. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister Sofia. "Lunch today? I have news." Elena smiled for the first time that morning. If anyone could lift her spirits, it was Sofia. 3 years younger, and everything Elena wasn't. Spontaneous, dramatic, perpetually single by choice. Sofia had a gift for making ordinary moments feel like adventures. Their relationship had always been close, built on a foundation of shared childhood secrets and unwavering loyalty. The Henderson presentation went flawlessly, as Elena had known it would. She'd built her reputation on understanding exactly what her clients wanted before they fully knew themselves. Mrs. Henderson, a steel magnolia wrapped in Chanel, had gushed over the marble samples and insisted on moving forward with the full renovation immediately. "You have such exquisite taste, dear," Mrs. Henderson had said, pressing Elena's hand between her perfectly manicured ones. "My Henry always said that true elegance can't be taught. It's either in your bones or it isn't. You clearly have it in your bones. Elena had smiled and accepted the compliment graciously, but the words lingered as she made her way to lunch with Sofia. Elegance in her bones. She'd cultivated that perception carefully over the years, crafting herself into the kind of woman who belonged in boardrooms and charity galas, who could discuss wine vintages and art collections with equal fluency. But lately, she'd begun to wonder if she'd polished herself so thoroughly that she'd erased everything genuine underneath. The restaurant Sofia had chosen was their usual spot, a little Italian place tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop, the kind of hidden gem that made you feel like you discovered a secret. Elena found her sister already seated at their favorite corner table, practically vibrating with excitement. You look like you're about to burst, Elena laughed, settling into her chair. Sofia was stunning in the way that seemed effortless, all tumbling auburn curls and bright green eyes that sparked with mischief. Where Elena was refined silk, Sofia was crackling fire. I am. Sofia leaned forward conspiratorially. I met someone. Elena raised an eyebrow. Sofia's romantic history was littered with someone's passionate affairs that burned bright and fast before fizzling out when real commitment became necessary. Another artist? Musician? Please tell me it's not another poet. No, nothing like that. Sofia's cheeks flushed pink. This one's different, Elena. He's mature. Successful. Everything I usually run away from. That does sound different. Elena signaled for the waiter, curious despite herself. What does he do? He's an architect, actually. Runs his own firm. And before you ask, yes, he's divorced, no children, financially stable. All the boxes on your imaginary checklist. Elena laughed. I don't have a checklist. Please. You have a checklist for everything, including the perfect way to fold fitted sheets. Sofia's eyes danced with affection. But I love that about you. You make everything look so effortless and perfect. The waiter appeared, and they ordered their usual, Caesar salad for Elena, pasta puttanesca for Sofia, a bottle of Pinot Grigio to share. As they waited for their food, Elena found herself studying her sister's glowing expression. You really like this one, don't you? Sofia nodded, suddenly serious. I think I might actually love him, Elena. Which terrifies me because you know how I am with commitment. But with him, it feels safe. Like I could build something real. That's wonderful, Sophie. Elena reached across the table to squeeze her sister's hand. I'm happy for you. When do I get to meet this mysterious architect? Soon, Sofia promised. I want to make sure it's really going somewhere first. You know how you and David are. You've set the bar pretty high for the rest of us. Elena's smile faltered slightly. We have our moments like any couple. Oh, please. You two are disgustingly perfect. 8 years married and David still looks at you like you hung the moon. I want what you have. The word should have made Elena happy, but instead they sat heavy in her chest. Was that really how others saw her marriage? Perfect and enviable? If so, what did that say about her ability to recognize reality? Or worse, what if the perfection was just another carefully maintained facade? Their food arrived, and they fell into comfortable conversation about Sofia's new art installation, Elena's latest client catastrophe, and their mother's latest attempt to set up their unmarried cousin with her dentist's son. It was easy and familiar, the kind of lunch that reminded Elena why Sofia had always been her closest confidant. But as they were finishing dessert, something shifted. Sofia glanced at her phone, and her expression changed, a flash of something Elena couldn't quite identify. Guilt? Anxiety? Everything okay? Fine, just work stuff. Sofia tucked her phone away quickly. Listen, I should probably get going. I have a meeting this afternoon. Elena nodded, though something felt off. Sofia was many things, disorganized, impulsive, chronically late, but she was never secretive with Elena. They told each other everything, had since they were children sneaking cookies from their grandmother's kitchen. As they hugged goodbye on the sidewalk, Elena caught Sofia's perfume, something new and expensive that she didn't recognize. Nice fragrance. What is it? Oh, just something I picked up. Sofia's laugh sounded forced. I'll call you soon, okay? Elena watched her sister disappear into the crowd, that familiar knot of unease returning with interest. First David's distant behavior, now Sofia acting strange. She was probably overthinking everything, looking for problems where none existed. But as she walked back to her office, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the carefully ordered world she'd built was developing cracks she couldn't see but could somehow sense, like the moment before an earthquake when animals grow restless and the air itself seems to hold its breath. What do you think is really going on? Is Elena's intuition right to be concerned, or is she overthinking innocent changes in behavior? Let us know in the comments what you think might be happening behind the scenes. 3 weeks later, Elena stood in her walk-in closet, holding 2 dresses and trying to remember why she'd once found choosing outfits exciting. The charity gala for the Children's Hospital was one of those events that mattered in their social circle, the kind of evening where business deals were discussed over champagne and reputations were built or destroyed based on who you spoke with and what you wore. She selected the midnight blue Valentino, a dress that had always made David's eyes darken with appreciation. Maybe tonight they could recapture some of that old magic, find their way back to each other through the comfortable rituals of shared success and mutual admiration. David emerged from his shower as she was fastening her diamond earrings, an anniversary gift from their 3rd year, when he'd still surprised her with jewelry and weekend getaways. His reflection appeared behind hers in the vanity mirror, and for a moment, she saw them as they used to be, a striking couple, perfectly matched in their ambitions and aesthetics. "You look beautiful," he said, but his eyes were already moving past her to check his phone. "Thank you." Elena turned to face him directly. "David, we should talk about shit." He was staring at his phone screen. "Rodriguez needs me to review the Morrison contracts before tomorrow's meeting. I'm going to be distracted all night thinking about this." "Can it wait until after the gala?" "You know how Rodriguez gets about deadlines." David was already moving toward his laptop. "Maybe you should go without me. Make our excuses." Elena felt something crack inside her chest. "This gala is important to me, David. I've been planning the auction component for months. I need you there." He looked up from his laptop screen, and for a second, she saw something flicker across his face. Was it relief? The thought lodged in her mind like a splinter. "Of course. You're right." He closed the laptop with what seemed like reluctance. "Work can wait. Let's go be charming and philanthropic." The grand ballroom of the plaza was transformed into an underwater wonderland, complete with projected jellyfish drifting across the ceiling and tables that seemed to float on waves of blue silk. Elena had worked with the event planner to create something magical, and seeing it come to life should have filled her with satisfaction. Instead, she felt oddly disconnected from her own creation, as if she were watching someone else's party through glass. David was perfectly charming as always. He worked the room with practiced ease, remembering names and asking about children and vacation plans. To any observer, he would seem like the devoted husband, attentive enough but not clingy, proud of his wife's achievements, comfortable in his own success. Elena had watched him perform this role so many times that she could predict his conversations like a script. "Elena, darling, you've outdone yourself." Margaret Worthington, the hospital board chairwoman, appeared at her elbow with the kind of smile that meant she wanted something. "The auction items are simply divine. How did you manage to secure that weekend in the Hamptons?" "The Hendersons were feeling generous," Elena replied smoothly. "They believe strongly in the cause." "Speaking of the Hendersons, have you seen their new place?" "I heard David's firm did the renovation work." Elena's attention sharpened. "David's firm?" "Oh yes, I was just speaking with Tom Henderson about it. Apparently, it was quite the project. Tom mentioned they worked with one of David's associates, a lovely young woman. Very creative." Before Elena could respond, Margaret was already drifting away toward the auction displays. Elena scanned the room for David and found him by the bar, deep in conversation with Judge Morrison and his wife. His body language was relaxed, engaged, more animated than she'd seen him at home in weeks. "Elena Martinez, I was hoping to see you tonight." She turned to find Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the hospital's pediatric surgeons and someone Elena genuinely liked. Sarah was brilliant, dedicated, and refreshingly direct in a world full of social pleasantries and hidden agendas. Sarah, how wonderful. How's the new wing coming along? Thanks to events like this, ahead of schedule and under budget. Sarah's expression grew more serious. Actually, I wanted to thank you for the referral. The architect you recommended for my home renovation has been fantastic. Elena's smile felt suddenly fragile. Architect. Your sister Sofia put us in touch. She said her boyfriend worked with commercial spaces, but did residential projects too. David something? I'm terrible with last names. The champagne in Elena's glass might as well have turned to ice water. David Martinez? Yes. That's him. Small world, right? Sofia did mention he was your husband. We've been working together for about 2 months now, and he's incredibly talented. Very hands-on with his projects. Elena managed to keep her expression neutral, but her mind was reeling. Sofia's mysterious new boyfriend was David. Her husband of 8 years, was having an affair with her own sister, and they'd been conducting it right under her nose for months. How did Sofia and David meet? Elena heard herself ask, as if from a great distance. At some gallery opening, I think. Sofia mentioned she was there covering it for that arts magazine she writes for. You know how these creative types are, they just find each other. Sarah's pager buzzed, and she glanced down. Oh, duty calls. We'll talk more soon. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. She watched Sarah weave through the crowd toward the exit, her mind struggling to process what she'd just learned. All those late nights, the distracted conversations, David's sudden interest in art galleries he'd never cared about before. Sofia's new perfume, her mysterious meetings, the way she deflected questions about her boyfriend. The room seemed to tilt slightly, as if she were on the deck of a ship in rough seas. Elena gripped her champagne glass tighter, using the sharp edges of crystal to anchor herself to the moment. She needed air, space to think, but first she needed to see them together with her own eyes. She found Sofia near the auction tables, stunning in a red dress that Elena didn't recognize, something new and expensive that her sister couldn't possibly afford on a freelance writer's income. Sofia was examining the silent auction items with the kind of focused attention she usually reserved for her art, but Elena noticed how her eyes kept scanning the crowd. Sofia. Elena's voice sounded remarkably steady. I didn't expect to see you here. Her sister spun around, and Elena caught the flash of panic before Sofia's expression smoothed into a smile. Elena, you look amazing. This whole event is incredible. You really outdid yourself. Thank you. I didn't know you were coming. Last-minute decision. My friend got us tickets. Sofia's cheeks flushed slightly. Actually, I was hoping we could all meet properly tonight. I think you'd really like him. I'm sure I would. Elena kept her voice light, conversational. Dr. Chun was just telling me about her renovation project. Apparently your boyfriend has been very helpful. Sofia's face went white. Elena, There you are. David's voice came from behind Elena, warm and affectionate in a way that made her skin crawl. She turned slowly, watching her husband approach with a smile that seemed genuine for the first time in months. He looked happier than she'd seen him in ages, his eyes bright with the kind of joy that used to be reserved for her. Sofia, you look stunning tonight, David said, his gaze lingering on her sister in a way that made Elena's stomach turn. That dress is perfect on you. Elena watched the exchange like a scientist observing a chemical reaction. The way Sofia's breathing quickened when David appeared. How his voice softened when he spoke to her. The careful distance they maintained while their eyes devoured each other across the space between them. Well, Elena said pleasantly, isn't this cozy? David's attention finally shifted to her, and she saw the exact moment he realized she knew. The color drained from his face, and his confident posture crumbled into something smaller and more uncertain. Elena. Not here. Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. We're at a charity gala, and I will not make a scene. But when we get home, David, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about honesty and respect and the difference between the two. She turned to Sofia, who looked like she might be sick. As for you, dear sister, I suggest you think very carefully about what you want to say to me when I call you tomorrow, because this conversation is far from over. Elena walked away with perfect posture and a serene expression, leaving her husband and sister staring after her in stunned silence. She made it to the ladies' room before her hands started shaking, locking herself in the furthest stall and pressing her back against the cold marble wall. 8 years of marriage. 28 years of sisterhood. Both relationships built on trust, intimacy, and absolute faith in the people she loved most. Now she was standing in a bathroom stall at a charity gala, realizing that the two people closest to her heart had been systematically deceiving her for months. But as the initial shock began to fade, something else took its place, not devastation, but a cold, calculating fury that surprised her with its clarity. Elena Martinez hadn't built a successful business by falling apart when faced with betrayal. She'd built it by understanding exactly what people wanted and then giving them precisely what they deserved. And David and Sofia were about to learn that there was a significant difference between what they wanted and what they deserved. The truth is finally out. Elena has discovered her husband's affair with her own sister. What do you think she should do next? Confront them immediately, or take time to plan her response. Share your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing your perspectives on these dramatic turns. Elena spent the remainder of the gala in performance mode, gliding through conversations about vacation homes and private schools while her mind worked with the precision of a chess master planning her next 20 moves. She smiled at donors, thanked volunteers, and posed for photographs with a kind of grace that made everyone around her feel they were in the presence of someone special. David and Sofia, meanwhile, looked increasingly uncomfortable as the evening progressed. They'd separated after her revelation, positioning themselves on opposite sides of the ballroom like magnetic poles forced apart. Elena caught them stealing glances at each other and at her, their faces wearing matching expressions of guilt and dread. Good. Let them squirm. The drive home was silent except for the hum of the Mercedes engine and the distant sounds of the city through bulletproof glass. David's hands gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity, and Elena could practically hear his mind racing as he tried to formulate explanations that might somehow make this forgivable. They wouldn't be forgivable. Elena had already moved past forgiveness into something far more interesting: strategy. Their penthouse felt different when they walked through the door, like a stage set for a play that had already ended. Elena kicked off her heels and poured herself a glass of wine from the bottle of Bordeaux they'd been saving for their anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on her. Elena, please let me explain. Explain what, exactly? She turned to face him, wine glass in hand, her voice perfectly calm. That you've been fucking my sister for months? That you've been lying to my face every single day while I worried about your stress levels and tried to be a supportive wife. Which part needs explaining, David? He flinched as if she'd slapped him. In 8 years of marriage, Elena had never spoken to him with such cold precision. She'd been the understanding wife, the supportive partner, the woman who smoothed over conflicts rather than creating them. It wasn't supposed to happen, he said weakly. We met at that gallery opening, and we just started talking. She was so different from, he stopped himself. Different from me? Elena took a sip of wine, watching him over the rim of the glass. More fun? More spontaneous? Less demanding. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? David ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she'd once found endearing. Now, it just looked like weakness. I love you, Elena. I've always loved you. But somewhere along the way, we became, I don't know, roommates, business partners. We stopped seeing each other. So you decided to see my sister instead. It wasn't like that. Sofia and I, we just connected. She made me feel alive again, like I was someone worth being excited about. When was the last time you looked at me the way you used to? When was the last time we talked about something other than schedules and obligations? Elena set down her wine glass with deliberate care. The gesture was so controlled, so precise, that it seemed to make David even more nervous. You're right, she said quietly. We did become roommates. But the difference between you and me, David, is that when I noticed our marriage losing its spark, I tried to fix it. I suggested weekend trips, planned special dinners, attempted to create opportunities for us to reconnect. Do you remember what you said each time? David's face had gone pale. You said you were too busy, too stressed, too focused on work. And like a good wife, I respected that and gave you space. I never imagined you were using that space to seduce my sister. Elena, I'm not finished. The steel in her voice made him step back. What makes this particularly interesting is the timeline. Sofia mentioned that she met her mysterious boyfriend about 4 months ago. But David, our marriage troubles started well before that, didn't they? Which means you went looking for someone to fill the gap you felt, and you chose the person who would hurt me most completely. David's mouth opened and closed without sound. Elena continued, pacing now like a lawyer delivering a closing argument. You could have chosen anyone. Your secretary, a colleague, some woman at a bar. But you chose Sofia because part of you wanted to destroy not just our marriage, but my relationship with the only family member I'm truly close to. That's not passion, David. That's cruelty with a side of psychological warfare. That's not true. I never meant for this to happen. Sofia and we try to stay away from each other, but what? Love conquered all. Elena's laugh was sharp enough to cut. Please. You're both adults who made calculated choices over a period of months. Every text message, every secret meeting, every lie you told me was a decision. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this was some romantic inevitability. She picked up her wine glass again, noting how her hands were perfectly steady. The devastation she'd expected to feel was still absent, replaced by this odd sense of clarity and purpose. Here's what's going to happen, she continued. Tomorrow morning, you're going to pack a bag and leave. I don't care where you go. Hotel, Sofia's apartment, your mother's house in Queens. I genuinely don't care. But you're not sleeping in our bed tonight. Elena, please. We can work through this. Couples therapy, counseling, whatever you need. What I need is for you to stop talking and start listening. Elena's voice dropped to just above a whisper, which somehow made it more frightening than shouting would have been. You and Sofia have made your choice. Now I get to make mine. And I choose to respond to betrayal with consequences. David stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. What does that mean? Elena smiled, and there was something in that expression that made him take another step backward. It means that you're about to learn the difference between Elena, the accommodating wife, and Elena, the woman who built a $1 million business from nothing. It means that I'm going to teach both of you exactly what you've thrown away, and I'm going to make sure you never forget the lesson. She finished her wine and set the glass down with finality. Get your things, David. And don't mistake my calm demeanor for acceptance. I'm not falling apart because my husband is a cheating coward and my sister is a backstabbing opportunist. I'm planning. Planning what? Elena's smile widened, and it was beautiful and terrible at once. You'll see. Good night, David. Enjoy whatever's left of your relationship with Sofia. I have a feeling it's going to be much shorter than you anticipated. She walked toward their bedroom, her bedroom now, leaving David standing in the living room with his mouth hanging open. As she closed the door behind her, Elena caught sight of herself in the full-length mirror. She looked exactly the same as she had that morning. Elegant, composed, every hair in place. But something fundamental had shifted behind her eyes. Elena Martinez had been betrayed by the two people she loved most in the world. But she wasn't going to crumble or beg or make herself smaller to accommodate their guilt. She was going to remind them exactly who they'd decided to cross. And then she was going to make them pay for it in ways they couldn't even imagine yet. Elena is taking control of the situation with cold calculation instead of emotional breakdown. Do you think her strategic approach is the right move, or should she be more confrontational? What kind of consequences do you think she has in mind for David and Sofia? Tell us your theories in the comments below. Elena woke the next morning to the sound of David's suitcase, wheels rolling across their hardwood floors. She lay still, listening to him move through their home with the careful quiet of someone trying not to wake a sleeping predator. The irony wasn't lost on her. After months of tiptoeing around his moods and mysterious absences, he was finally the one walking on eggshells. She waited until she heard the front door close before rising, padding to the window in her silk pajamas to watch his Mercedes disappear into morning traffic. Only then did she allow herself to feel the first real emotion since her discovery, not sadness or anger, but a crystalline sense of purpose that made her blood sing. Her phone was already buzzing with messages. 3 missed calls from Sofia, followed by increasingly frantic texts. Elena, please call me. I need to explain. It's not what you think. I never meant for this to happen. Please don't hate me. Elena deleted each message without reading them fully. Sofia would have to wait. There were more important things to handle first. She made coffee in the pristine kitchen that David had always complained was too sterile, too perfect for actual cooking. Then she settled at her laptop with a yellow legal pad, old habits from her early business days, when she'd been too poor to afford multiple devices, but too ambitious to let that stop her. First, the practical matters. Elena had built her interior design firm from nothing, which meant she understood the importance of controlling cash flow and information. David, however, had always been careless about financial details, content to let Elena handle their investments and accounts while he focused on the big picture of his architectural projects. His mistake. Elena began with their joint accounts, methodically transferring exactly half of their savings to her personal account, legally her right, but strategically devastating to David's immediate liquidity. Next, she pulled up their investment portfolio. David had insisted on putting both their names on everything for simplicity, another decision that was about to work against him. She liquidated their joint stocks and mutual funds, again taking exactly half while leaving him with the tax implications of the early withdrawals. By the time David thought to check their finances, he'd find his access to ready cash severely limited. But money was just the opening gambit. Elena's real expertise lay in understanding what people valued most and then systematically dismantling those things with surgical precision. Her phone rang. Sofia again. Elena answered on the 4th ring. Hello, sister. Elena, thank God. Please, I need to see you. I need to explain. Explain what? That you've been fucking my husband for months? That you sat across from me at lunch 3 weeks ago, glowing about your mysterious new boyfriend, while I worried about my marriage falling apart. Which part needs clarification? Sofia? Silence stretched across the line. Elena could hear Sofia crying, soft hiccuping sobs that once would have melted her heart. Not today. I never meant for it to happen. Sofia whispered finally. You have to believe me. I don't have to believe anything. Elena's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. But I am curious about the timeline. When exactly did you decide that sleeping with my husband was worth destroying our relationship? It wasn't like that. Elena, we tried to stop. We knew it was wrong, but you didn't stop. You chose to continue, knowing exactly what it would do to me. Elena paused, letting that sink in. Tell me, Sofia, when you were in bed with David, did you ever think about how it would feel for me to find out? Did you picture my face when I discovered that my own sister had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible? Sofia's sobs intensified. Please don't do this. I love you. You're my sister. Was. I was your sister. Now you're just another woman who made the mistake of underestimating me. Elena hung up and immediately blocked Sofia's number. Then she opened her laptop and began typing with the focused intensity of someone conducting a symphony of destruction. The first email went to Margaret Worthington, copying the entire hospital board. Dear Margaret, thank you for such a successful gala last evening. I wanted to follow up on our conversation about the Henderson renovation project. It has come to my attention that there may have been some inappropriate conduct between Martinez Architecture and their clients during that project. Given the hospital board's commitment to ethical business practices, I thought you should be aware that David Martinez's firm may not align with your values. I'll be providing documentation to support these concerns early next week. Best regards, Elena. The second email went to Judge Morrison, David's most important potential client. Dear Judge Morrison, I hope you enjoyed last evening's gala. I wanted to reach out confidentially about Martinez Architecture. Some concerning information has come to light regarding David Martinez's professional conduct and personal integrity. Given your position and reputation, I felt you should be made aware before finalizing any business arrangements. I'll be happy to discuss the details at your convenience. Respectfully, Elena Martinez. Elena sent similar messages to 3 other major clients, each carefully crafted to plant seeds of doubt without making specific accusations she couldn't prove. She wasn't lying. There had been inappropriate conduct, just not the kind they'd assume. But the beauty of reputation destruction was that perception mattered more than facts. Her phone rang again. David this time. Elena, what the hell did you do? Morrison just called and postponed our meeting indefinitely. He was asking questions about my personal conduct and I told the truth, Elena said calmly, that there are questions about your integrity and professionalism, both of which seem to be in short supply these days. You can't do this. You're destroying my business. I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply allowing the natural consequences of your choices to unfold. Elena pulled up her client database as she spoke. David, in 8 years of marriage, how many clients did I refer to your firm? Silence. I'll tell you. 43. Nearly half your business came through my connections, my reputation, my recommendations. She clicked through the contacts, mentally calculating the revenue David stood to lose. Mrs. Henderson alone represents $250,000 in potential projects. The Worthington family trust renovation could have been worth twice that. Elena, please. You made your choice when you decided my sister was worth more than our partnership. Now live with the consequences. She hung up and immediately called her own attorney, Tom Brennan, who'd handled the legal formation of her business. Elena, how are you? How's David? That's actually why I'm calling. I need to discuss divorce proceedings, and I need to understand my options regarding business interests and asset protection. Tom's voice shifted into professional mode. I see. How complex are we talking? Very. David's firm has been built significantly on referrals from my client base. I also suspect there may have been some questionable financial decisions regarding business expenses. I'd like a forensic accountant to review everything. Absolutely. Are we looking at a contested divorce? Elena smiled, staring out at the city skyline that had once represented the life she'd built with David. Tom, by the time I'm finished, there won't be enough left to contest. The rest of the day passed in a blur of phone calls, emails, and strategic conversations. Elena contacted her insurance agent to remove David from their policies. She called their country club to inquire about membership rules regarding divorce. She reached out to their mutual friends with carefully worded messages about taking some time apart to work through personal issues. Each action was small, precise, and completely legal. But together, they formed a web of social and professional isolation that would slowly strangle the life David had built. By evening, Elena felt oddly energized. She ordered sushi from their favorite restaurant, a small act of reclaiming that felt more significant than it should have. As she sat at their dining room table, eating California rolls and planning the next phase of her campaign, her doorbell rang. She knew who it would be before she opened the door. Sofia stood in the hallway looking haggard and desperate, her usual vibrant energy dimmed to something raw and pleading. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair uncombed, her clothes wrinkled as if she'd slept in them. Elena, please. Just 5 minutes. Let me explain. No. Elena started to close the door, but Sofia pressed her hand against it. I'll tell you everything. Every detail. When it started, how it happened, why we... I don't want to know the details. Elena's voice was arctic. I don't want to hear about your first kiss or your romantic moments or how you justified betraying me. I want you to leave. You're my sister. No. Elena looked directly into Sofia's eyes, her own gaze steady and implacable. A sister protects you. A sister has your back. A sister doesn't fuck your husband and then lie to your face for months. You're just someone I used to know who happens to share my DNA. Sofia's face crumpled. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up, but please don't throw away 28 years. You threw it away. The moment you decided David was worth more than our relationship, you threw it away. Elena stepped back, beginning to close the door again. Don't come here again, Sofia. Don't call, don't text, don't send messages through other people. As far as I'm concerned, you're dead to me. Elena. Elena closed the door and engaged the deadbolt, then leaned against it as she listened to Sofia sob in the hallway. Part of her, the part that remembered teaching Sofia to ride a bike, holding her hair back when she was sick, celebrating her art school acceptance, wanted to open the door and forgive everything. But that part was small and growing smaller. Sofia had made her choice. Now Elena was making hers. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Elena, this is Dr. Chin. I hope it's okay that I got your number from the hospital directory. I wanted to let you know that David called and canceled our renovation project. He seemed very upset. I hope everything is okay. Elena smiled as she typed her response. Thank you for letting me know, Sarah. David and I are going through some personal issues. If you're still interested in renovation work, I'd be happy to recommend some other excellent architects who would better suit your needs. Within minutes, Sarah had responded with gratitude and a request for recommendations. Elena spent the next hour connecting Sarah with two of David's competitors, making sure to mention her personal endorsement and the fact that she'd be happy to coordinate with a new architect on design elements. It was past midnight when Elena finally went to bed, but sleep eluded her. She lay in the king-sized bed she'd once shared with David, staring at the ceiling and feeling empty. Not sad, not angry, just hollow, as if someone had scooped out her insides and left only the polished shell. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to systematically dismantle the life David and Sofia had stolen from her. She had meetings with her attorney, calls to make, relationships to leverage. The work of destruction was far from over. But tonight, alone in her perfect penthouse with her perfect view of the city lights, Elena allowed herself to acknowledge what she'd lost. Not just a marriage and a sister, but the version of herself who believed that love and loyalty were enough to protect the things that mattered. That woman was gone, replaced by someone harder, smarter, and far more dangerous. And tomorrow, David and Sofia would begin to understand exactly what they'd created. Elena is systematically dismantling David's professional life while cutting Sofia out completely. Her cold, calculated approach is devastating, but is she going too far? Or is this exactly what betrayal deserves? What do you think her next move should be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're fascinated by your takes on Elena's revenge strategy. 6 weeks later, Elena sat in her redesigned home office. She'd had the entire penthouse redone, erasing every trace of David's presence with the efficiency of a surgeon removing a tumor. The space now reflected her aesthetic exclusively. Clean lines, warm golds, and deep blues. Furniture that whispered expensive taste, without shouting desperation. Her laptop displayed the morning's intelligence report. Yes, she'd actually hired a private investigator, because knowledge was power and power was everything. David and Sofia's affair was imploding spectacularly, just as Elena had predicted. The financial pressure she'd applied had worked exactly as intended. David's firm was hemorrhaging clients, his reputation damaged beyond immediate repair. He'd been forced to lay off 2 employees and downsize his office space. Sofia, meanwhile, had lost 3 freelance contracts when Elena had quietly reached out to mutual contacts in the arts community with concerns about Sofia's reliability and professionalism. But the most delicious detail came from the investigator's surveillance notes. David and Sofia were fighting constantly. Apparently, the romance lost some of its sparkle when conducted in David's studio apartment in Queens instead of secret hotel rooms paid for with Elena's joint credit cards. Her assistant knocked and entered with the morning's correspondence. Mrs. Martinez? Tom Brennan is here for your 11 o'clock. Elena checked her reflection in the mirror behind her desk. She looked magnificent, rested, confident, wearing a new Armani suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The divorce proceedings had been progressing smoothly, largely because David was too financially strapped to mount much of a defense. Send him in. Tom entered with a satisfied expression that made Elena smile. They'd become quite the team over the past month and a half, 2 strategic minds working toward the same goal. Good news, he said, settling into the chair across from her desk. David's attorney called this morning. They want to settle. Of course they do. Elena poured herself tea from the service her assistant had prepared. What are they offering? Essentially, everything you asked for. The penthouse, 60% of liquid assets, your business interests protected completely. He keeps his firm, what's left of it, and his personal effects. And the other matter? Tom's smile widened. The forensic accountant found exactly what you suspected. David's been charging personal expenses to his business accounts, dinners, hotel rooms, even some jewelry that I suspect was meant for Sofia. The IRS is going to be very interested in those irregularities. Elena felt that familiar warm satisfaction spread through her chest. David's cheating hadn't just destroyed their marriage. His sloppy attempts to hide the evidence were about to destroy his business entirely. How long do we think he has before the audit? 6 months, maybe less. And given his current financial situation, Tom shrugged. He'll be lucky to afford a decent tax attorney. They spent another hour reviewing final details, ensuring every loose end was tied with surgical precision. When Tom left, Elena allowed herself a moment of pure satisfaction. She'd said she would teach David and Sofia a lesson they'd never forget, and she delivered on that promise with interest. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Elena, please. I'm begging you. David lost another client today, and I can't find work anywhere. We know this is you. Please stop. We're sorry. Sofia. Elena deleted the message without responding. She'd blocked dozens of Sofia's numbers over the past 6 weeks, but her sister was persistent, if nothing else. Not that it mattered. Elena had no interest in Sofia's apologies or pleas. That afternoon, she had lunch with Margaret Worthington at their usual spot, a restaurant that had been David and Sofia's secret meeting place, according to her investigator. Elena had specifically chosen it for the delicious irony. You look wonderful, Margaret said as they settled at their table. Divorce clearly agrees with you. Elena laughed, genuinely amused. I prefer to think of it as shedding unnecessary weight. Speaking of which, I heard David Martinez's firm is having some difficulties. Such a shame. He seemed so promising. Sometimes people aren't who they appear to be. Elena sipped her wine, enjoying the warmth of superior vintage. Fortunately, there are many talented architects in the city. I'd be happy to make some recommendations if you need them. Margaret leaned forward conspiratorially. Actually, that's why I wanted to lunch with you. The board is planning a major expansion of the children's wing, and we need someone with impeccable taste to coordinate the design elements. Interested? Elena's smile was radiant. I'd be honored. As Margaret outlined the project, a multi-million-dollar renovation that would have been the jewel in David's portfolio, Elena felt the final pieces of her revenge clicking into place. She wasn't just destroying David's career. She was claiming the opportunities that should have been his, building her own success on the ashes of his failures. After lunch, she walked through Central Park, enjoying the autumn air and the feeling of absolute control over her destiny. Her phone rang, her attorney again. Elena, we have a problem. Well, not a problem for us, but David's attorney just called in a panic. Apparently David showed up at Sofia's apartment this morning, and there was some kind of scene. The neighbors called the police. Elena stopped walking. What kind of scene? Shouting, accusations. Apparently Sofia tried to end things, and David didn't take it well. No one was hurt, but there was a domestic disturbance report filed. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the first crack in her perfect revenge. She'd wanted to destroy David and Sofia's relationship, but she hadn't wanted David to become dangerous. Tom, I want extra security on my building, and I want a restraining order filed immediately. Already in motion. Elena, I have to ask, are you concerned for your safety? She considered the question seriously. David had always been prideful, but never violent. However, desperate people did unpredictable things, and she'd made him very desperate indeed. I don't think so, but I'd rather be cautious. That evening, Elena sat in her redesigned living room, feeling strangely unsettled. The investigator's report lay open on her coffee table, filled with details of David and Sofia's deteriorating relationship, his mounting financial problems, her increasing desperation as freelance work dried up. She'd won. Completely and utterly. David's business was dying, his relationship with Sofia was toxic and failing, and his reputation was destroyed. Sofia was professionally ostracized and personally miserable. They'd both learned exactly what it cost to betray Elena Martinez. So, why did she feel so empty? Her doorman's voice came through the intercom. "Mrs. Martinez, there's a Sofia Castillo here to see you. Should I send her up?" Elena's first instinct was to refuse, but something in the doorman's tone made her pause. "How does she look, Marcus?" "Honestly, ma'am? She looks terrible. Thin, upset. She's been crying." Elena closed her eyes. 6 weeks ago, she would have cared that Sofia was suffering. Now she felt only a distant curiosity about whether her sister had learned her lesson yet. "Send her up." Sofia looked like a ghost when Elena opened the door. She'd lost weight, her clothes hanging loose on her diminished frame. Her hair was dull, her skin pale, her eyes hollow with the kind of exhaustion that came from weeks of sleepless nights. "Thank you for seeing me," Sofia whispered. Elena stepped aside to let her enter, noting how Sofia's gaze moved around the transformed space, taking in the new furniture, the fresh paint, the complete absence of anything that had once belonged to David. "You've changed everything." "Yes." Elena didn't offer her a seat. "What do you want, Sofia?" "I want to apologize. Really apologize, not just say I'm sorry because I got caught." Sofia's voice was rough, as if she'd been crying for hours. "I want you to know that I understand what I did to you, and I know it was unforgivable." Elena waited, neither encouraging nor dismissing the words. "David and I, it's over. It's been over for weeks, really. We thought we were in love, but we were just, I don't know, getting high off the secrecy and the excitement. When it became real, when we had to actually build something together instead of just stealing moments, we realized we don't even like each other very much." "How tragic," Elena said dryly. Sofia flinched. "I know you hate me. I know I destroyed everything between us. But Elena, I'm worried about David. He's not handling this well. He's drinking too much, making threats." "What kind of threats?" "About you. About how you destroyed his life, how you're vindictive and cruel. He's starting to scare me. And I think he might do something stupid." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "Like what?" "I don't know. But he came to my apartment this morning screaming about how this was all your fault, how you'd turned everyone against him." "Elena, I think he might try to hurt you." They stared at each other across the elegant living room, two women who had once shared everything now separated by an ocean of betrayal and consequence. "Why are you telling me this?" Elena asked quietly. Sofia's eyes filled with tears. "Because despite everything, despite how much I hate myself for what I did to you, you're still my sister. And I can't let him hurt you." Elena nodded slowly. It was, she realized, the first genuine thing Sofia had said to her in months. "Thank you for the warning." Sofia turned toward the door, then stopped. "Elena, I know you'll never forgive me. I know our relationship is over. But I want you to know that losing you has been the worst part of all this. Worse than losing work, worse than the guilt, worse than David's anger. I'd give anything to take it all back." "But you can't," Elena said simply. "No, I can't." After Sofia left, Elena stood at her window looking out at the city lights, thinking about revenge and consequences and the price of winning at any cost. She'd set out to teach David and Sofia a lesson, and she'd succeeded beyond her wildest expectations. But looking at her perfect, empty penthouse, Elena wondered if she'd taught herself a lesson too, one about what happened when you burned bridges so thoroughly that you ended up on an island of your own creation. Tomorrow she would deal with David's threats, with security concerns and legal protections. Tonight, she would sit in her beautiful, solitary home and contemplate whether complete victory was worth the complete isolation that came with it. Elena has achieved total victory in her revenge against David and Sofia, but at what cost? She's isolated, alone, and now potentially in danger from David's desperation. Was her calculated destruction worth it, or has she gone too far? And what do you think will happen next with David's threats? Share your thoughts on whether Elena's revenge was justified or if she's become the villain of her own story. Let us know in the comments below. This story has us completely hooked, and we want to hear what you think about Elena's journey.